Hey there YouTube, and welcome to Ask a Maestro. Today's question comes from YouTube commenter Joseph Fulwick, who asks, what are the different jobs musicians can do? Why is there the starving artist stereotype? Well, the first thing I would say is that musicians can do literally any job. They can be doctors, or nurses, or lawyers, or architects, or clergy people, coders, or engineers, teachers, or psychiatrists. They can work in a museum, they could work at a restaurant. And here what I'm sort of proposing is that we separate the idea of being a musician from earning one's living full-time through music. More and more we hear about law schools and medical schools preferring candidates who have a background in the arts. Think about it. If you are getting 100 applications for a spot in a medical school and you see 99 of them are biology majors, and then you see that there's one person who is a music major, that's going to sort of arouse your curiosity. And there's a good reason for this. The things that we learn as musicians, teamwork and cooperation and attention to detail, discipline, talent, and taste, are all incredibly important skills no matter what walk of life or profession you find yourself in. Okay, now let's talk about what I think the question is really asking. How do you make a career in music itself? Well, first I will say that exceedingly few people earn their living full-time from music, and this has always been true in the history of music. Most of the great composers and performers that we hear about today also taught music or engaged in other non-musical business ventures. Bach, for example, was a church musician and had a lot of administrative tasks and teaching duties that went along with that. Handel was a theatrical impresario. Borodin famously was a chemist. But then, of course, there are the rare few who did earn their livings full-time from music. For example, Tchaikovsky had a very wealthy patron who gave him a yearly salary just to compose. And yes, there is this stereotype of the starving artist or the bohemian. Now that really comes to us from the 19th century, from about the 1840s and 50s, when this lifestyle of living sort of on the margins of society in quasi-poverty with a bunch of like-minded artists and journalists and musicians really became romanticized. But the truth now, as it was then, is that most musicians live somewhere in the middle. And one thing that it's really important to realize when you're considering a career in music is that it's no shame to live modestly. Now, some of the professions that a musician can embark upon are performing musician, orchestral musician, recitalist, chamber player, conductor, composer, arranger, producer, arts administrator, agent, manager. You can work in radio or TV or film production. In the United States and Europe, at least, you can enlist in the armed forces and perform as a member of the ceremonial bands. You can be a choral or an opera singer. And of course, the list goes on and on. There is basically an infinity of career paths within the field of music, much as there is an even larger infinity of career paths outside of the field of music. Now, the reality is that most people who are trying to make their livings full-time from music cobble together a living from a number of different sources. They might perform part-time, they might teach part-time, they might do something non-musical on the side part-time. Now, I think that this is a really interesting and important question, especially for a lot of young people who might be considering a career path in music. And I really would like to show you what a variety of different lifestyles within the field of music look like. So I am embarking on a little interview series. I have asked a number of my friends and colleagues to come onto this show and to record phone calls and interviews talking about how they make their lives in music. Anyway, YouTube, that is it for this episode of Ask a Maestro. Thank you so much to Joseph Fulwick for your great question. The rest of you, please leave your questions in the comments below. Feel free to like this video and subscribe to the channel. Until next time, go play an instrument or sing a song. And until then, goodbye everyone. Voglio ancora